The truly creative mind in any field is no more than this, a human creature born abnormally, inhumanely sensitive. To them, a touch is a blow, a sound is a noise, a misfortune is a tragedy, a joy is an ecstasy, a friend is a lover is a god, and failure is death. Add to this cruelly delicate organism the overpowering necessity to create, 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 so that without the creating of music or poetry or books or buildings or something of meaning, their very breath is cut off. They must create, must pour out creation by some strange, unknown inward urgency that they are not really alive unless they are creating.
Welcome back to the Corner Talks podcast. I have my good friend here.
How's it going, man? Happy to be back.
No, it shouldn't be about anything. Like, this is one life.
Yep, one life? Like, fucking do it.
My guy.
Like, she just got it. She totally understood it.
20 years old when I started just watching a lot of movies.
And it tells a story. I want to tell a story.
They have a very special guest, good friend, artist, and actor, and writer, I should say, Andrea Vera. What's going on? How are you, Andrea?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I really appreciate you coming onto the podcast, sharing your journey and experience. When I met you at the Toronto Shorts International Film Festival, I was introduced to you by our mutual friend, Iman Heather, a talented, lovely actress who was part of, obviously, Lady of the Night, one of my acclaimed short films. So it was a true honor to meet you and know that we have another creative in our circle.
Yeah, it was such a pleasure to meet you. It was really great seeing your film as well. I didn't really know what to expect when I was going into it, but it was really, really good. And the acting in it was phenomenal. The script writing was really good. Like, I loved how in depth the characters went, even though it was just like a small frame of time. You could really see like the intricacies and like the thought that went into each character.
Wow, that means a lot. Thank you. Because that's exactly what I was going for when I wrote this. Shout out to Abil Michael, who helped me write this as well, came up with the premise. That's what it is, right? It's like exploring the human condition, but how do we do it in the most believable way, right? And Iman and we often joke around every time we kind of see each other and we reflect on the film because I wrote most of the dialogue. And specifically so with the female character, when she told me like, this is amazing, like I believe it, this is something that's authentic to me. I took a lot of gratitude. I was really gratified by that because obviously I'm not a woman, but the fact that I could tap into that psyche and understand like what they would say in the right moments. Because as a woman, I would say for yourself, like you would detect if something's kind of contrived or forced. Would you agree?
Yeah. I definitely didn't feel that at all. Like the lines were like, they were so smooth and like they sounded like they belonged with the character.
Awesome. So I'm so happy. Thank
Yeah.
you again for your compliments. I really appreciated it. And it was really nice to again, meet you and learning more about your creative journey. I know Iman spoke very highly of you. You're a very good friend to her. And she says that you're very creative. And like I said, I'm just always happy to know, especially as a director, that there's other actresses around, right? Because there's tons of projects to be had. And upon our interaction at the festival, I was very pleased to learn that you're a working actress in the city of Toronto. And like I was explaining, I'm a writer and director, so I'm always looking for talent. But I want to know from yourself, what is it about acting that motivated you to pursue it as a profession?
Well, I started acting when I was in high school and I just took it as a drama credit. Like
Nice.
I didn't think that I was gonna like it that much. Like I wasn't really sure. I just took it. And as I went into it, I started to like really fall in love with it and just love being on stage. And most importantly, I love telling stories.
Right.
So I ended up taking drama all 4 years, like the extracurricular drama where we did theater.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took film class in grade 11. And even though it was the same class in grade 12, I took it again. So by grade 12, I experienced like sort of a tough time in my life where I went through like anxiety and depression. It was like my first time experiencing something like that before. And I came to realize that sort of the only thing that would like get me out of bed in the morning was just knowing that I was going to be in theater and going to drama class and doing film. And so, yeah, essentially it just became something that was the only thing that would get me out of bed in the morning. So I was like, I'd be a fool to not keep exploring this and pursuing it.
Yeah, of course, right? If it makes you happy, that's just my whole philosophy in life. That's why I'm doing this grueling but highly satisfying, fulfilling, I should say, profession of filmmaking. Because people often
Yeah.
say, like, why are you so crazy to keep doing it? Because I have a lot of
Yeah.
setbacks, a lot of failures, but I really do believe it'll all come together. And again, like you complimenting someone I don't know, I've never met before, complimenting my work and just saying how much she enjoyed the film and how captivating it was. I mean this. It really it speaks to me because it tells me like I have something, and if I give
Yeah.
up now, I won't. I'll just it'll be a disservice to myself. You know what I mean? And I need to kind of keep going. And it's interesting that you said you used the arts like it was this passion that kind of kept you out of bed and
Yeah.
yeah, kept you going, kept you happy. You had a tough time in high school, is that what it was? And this was kind of like a an avenue for yourself to explore?
Yeah, it was mostly just like the last year. I think I was just kind of going through like a like existential sort of crisis where I
No,
didn't
yeah.
really know, grade 12 is like a big year where you kind of get to decide where you want to take your life um post secondary. So I was I think that was like the biggest thing for me. I was just kind of really stressed about where I was going to take my life. And also I was just dealing with stuff like family issues. So that for me was like I think it was the first time really navigating that and I didn't really know like what it even was. So I had a tough time like really navigating it and like understanding what was happening to me.
I understand. Yeah, no, I relate to that as well, right? Like the existential crisis. I kind of go through that often, even though I feel
Yeah.
like I know what I'm going, like, you know what I mean? I'm pursuing.
Yeah.
But I often feel that for sure, especially I would say I had that more so in the last year of university, my fourth year when I was studying at Ryerson, or I should say Toronto Metropolitan. Yeah, I was studying marketing, right? I have a Bachelor of Commerce degree, but I was saying
Oh
to
wow,
myself,
yeah.
how do I pursue film, right? I got people that I know that are in film school or people doing YouTube videos. Like I had nothing, Andrea, like no 94 productions, nothing to my name. And I really had a moment to myself and I said, like, what I'm doing, like it's great. I did the 4 years, but I never thought long term, like, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life? Now, luckily for me, I was able to integrate the two and combine them. It's not like I studied, philosophy or anything like that.
Yeah.
Even some could argue you could work that in, right, as a writer. But
Yeah.
marketing is such a critical element in today's age, right? With social media, that I was able to work it in. So I definitely
That's
relate
true.
to, yeah, I definitely relate to what you're saying. Like, it's a tough time. They're formative years for a reason, right? We're all trying to figure out who we are. And a lot of people will
Yeah.
argue, we're in our 20s now. Like, um, it's not always said and done. You know what I mean? Like you could hit 30 and say like, oh, I'm not really happy what I'm doing. I want to change and figure it out for myself and do something else. Do you see
Yeah.
yourself? Yeah, I was gonna say, like, do you see yourself always doing this profession, or are there times when you might stem away and do something else entirely different?
Yeah, I think I'm just a really multifaceted person. So
Okay.
I like having like a little bit of everything in my life and I
Right.
like my day to kind of look different. So, yeah, I'm always open to new passions, like evolving over time and just kind of seeing where that takes me. But I know that acting will always be a part of my life one way or another. Like I love it. It's really like it's like a fuel to my life. So I feel
Yeah.
like I need to do it. So it's um I know that it'll always be a really big part of my life.
It speaks to you, yeah, and that's what it is. That's what I was explaining, right? As much as I have those days where I don't want to get out of bed, or I have those days where I just don't feel like this is going to come into fruition, this whole dream of mine. There's a part of me that always tells me this is all I want to do and this is all that I know. That's a big thing
Yeah.
too. I don't know if you say that to yourself, like, this is all I know. I tell people that a lot. It's like I can't afford to do something else because I just
Yeah.
don't have the willpower or the intelligence to do it. This is all I want to
Mhm.
do. Like, I'm designed to be creative. And speaking again of Iman, like, that's something that her and I always kind of bonded over. Like, we always discussed that, and she pointed out that characteristic is like, you're so creative that I'm sure you'll always find a way. You know what I mean? And I took that very much to
Yeah.
heart because I can't see myself like sitting in an office doing bookkeeping. You know what I mean? Like, I'll just die. I've
Yeah.
done it before. I just it's not gonna work out. You know what I mean?
I'm
So
sure that's like every artist's like worst
right,
nightmare.
yes,
That's why we do
exactly.
it because we don't want that.
Exactly. We're trying our best. Like, we're so
Yeah.
desperate not to live that life, even though some people call us crazy because it's so steady and secure. And I think that's what
Yeah.
it is like, I hate that because like you're killing my creative fire, my passion, right? Um,
Yeah.
every day is monotonous. Like I don't want to relive it. You know what I mean? Like Groundhog Day. I just
Yeah.
I just want every day to be an adventure. That's just how I envisioned it. You know, every day is like something new and different. That's even how I structure my days, right? That's why you see me not just the filmmaker, but I also am a podcast host, right? I also have a production clothing line, or I do dance music videos. Like I am always trying, like you said, multifaceted. That's what I think most creatives are, because you
Yeah.
don't want to be pigeonholed or pegged into one situation. Because
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
how the creative fire dies. Perfect. So
Yeah.
glad we're on the same page about that. I want to know, because you were speaking about acting, this being a burning desire, something you constantly need to pursue, and you don't see it letting up anytime soon. What type of characters do you most desire to portray in film or television?
I think I love a character that I could really sink my teeth into. Like I I like to see a character that goes through like a lot of difficulties in life,
Right.
and that regardless of the difficulties is able to keep moving forward and like have that sort of message of hope to other people, um to be able to convey like inspiration, and also just to see like the realities of life, and um I guess the complexity of people.
Awesome. Yeah. So like, that's really well said. Like, it's a noble cause, obviously, to explore those kinds of people. That's what I mean by like the human condition. Those are attributes that a lot of human beings kind of experience, right? It's not so much to portray the people that don't have any flaws to them. That's why I write my characters. Someone asked me, I think quite recently, like, what values do you want reflected in your films? And for me, I'm always about either the underdog or the rebel, or maybe even both. You know what I mean? Because that's how I
Mm,
identified with that my whole life. I've always been the guy. I've had some privileges. Don't get me wrong. Been fortunate with my life, but there have been times when, most times I should say, I felt like the underdog. And this whole profession entirely, like I didn't go to film school. I don't know anybody. So every time I meet someone, every time I make something of myself, it always reminds me of the kid that just had a passion and knew nothing else, right? So that's where the underdog kind of stems from. And that rebellion, the
mhm.
the rebel, I should say, something you probably share with with me as well, is someone that went
Yeah,
outside, right, of the conventional way of pursuing a career, and you decided to pursue acting.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah,
So
for sure.
yeah, so getting back to like, the whole concept behind what drives us to pursue this crazy profession. I want to know from you, like, what motivates you to continue being an artist despite the setbacks and frustrations that the industry commonly provides?
I think just the fact that it's more of like a need rather than like a want.
Yeah.
So when I find myself like resorting to just trying to like be normal, or like work like normal jobs, or if I find myself like sort of questioning like, oh, can I just do like a normal 9 to 5 and like not have to do this? Um, I just end up feeling so far removed from myself,
Right.
and just like so dead inside.
Yeah.
So,
I get it.
um, it's like a need. Like I really don't know how else to describe it. But there was this quote. If you just give me a second to pull it up.
Yes, please. I always love
Um,
inspirational quotes.
yeah, I actually saw my professor from school. He posted it, and it just
Nice.
really hit home for me.
Perfect.
Um, So it goes like this. The truly creative mind in any field is no more than this, a human creature born abnormally, inhumanely sensitive. To them, a touch is a blow, a sound is a noise, a misfortune is a tragedy, a joy is an ecstasy, a friend is a lover is a god, and failure is death. Add to this cruelly delicate organism the overpowering necessity to create, 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 so that without the creating of music or poetry or books or buildings or something of meaning, their very breath is cut off. They must create, must pour out creation by some strange, unknown inward urgency that they are not really alive unless they are creating. And it's by Pearl S. Buck.
Wow, that was actually beautiful. I'm not gonna lie, because it spoke to me. The key word for me was sensitivity. And that's something I guess you would probably describe yourself. Would you say you're a very sensitive individual growing up?
Yeah, I've always been extremely
You've always been,
sensitive.
right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
um, I say this because, especially in this day and age, right? Like people commonly perceive, especially men, like you can't be too sensitive. But I'll be honest, like when I was a kid growing up, I was overly sensitive. Like I would just absorb everything. And I think it was just how I was raised, or like credit to my mom there. But I
Yeah.
never knew how to channel it or express it. So that's why I'm saying this passage like meant something to me, is that's what it's trying to say, is like it's this urgency, this need, this compulsion to find something different to express and channel that energy into something
Yeah.
beautiful, right? Because I could never find my place because of that notion, right? Because the common stereotype is like, yo, like you should know how to be tough and thick skin. And while I developed those things thanks to this career, I always see myself as a sensitive guy. Like I always see myself empathizing with people and feeling for people because I know what it's like. You know what I mean? That's why I go back to like being the underdog or the rebel. Like I know what it's like and I feel for those people. And if I don't, I try my best to feel for them, which is why I do this
Mhm.
podcast as well. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So would you say that was one of the stepping stones for you, like with being sensitive? Like, is that why acting became such a profound opportunity?
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely like such a huge outlet. I feel like I've been so sensitive my whole life too.
Right.
Um, so it was it was really refreshing to have something where my vulnerability wasn't like repressed, it was celebrated.
Yeah.
Um, so that always like means a lot to me because even in like I went to school for acting
Right.
and yeah, so it always required you to be extremely open and vulnerable.
Yes.
And when you're so used to like repressing those things your whole life and like just kind of having like a almost like a shell of like, of not being sensitive, um, it's really eye-opening and it just helps you change so much as a person to be like in touch with your emotions. And it also just helps you like make better decisions in life to be like um really attached to your emotional center. I feel like it's just kind of like going with your gut and going with the flow.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge part in being an artist.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. Yeah, for sure. And I'm so happy that you were able to find something that worked for you, something that you were able to kind of channel again that sensitivity and express it into something that you make into your own. Because a lot of people, right, suffer and they don't know how they can, channel all that energy. Like that's something for me. Like as much as I love film, I never knew what I could do with it. And then I started realizing when I wrote stories, i.e., Lady of the Night,
Mhm.
that's where I'm able to access that vulnerability. That's where you're able to, as an audience member, understand and really feel the characters, is because I project everything I absorb from people and what I hear, and I put myself in those scenarios, um, to best serve it justice. And speaking of writing, that's something that you've kind of hinted to me before the podcast. I know aside from acting, that's what you do as well. You write
Yeah.
poetry, and are you
Yeah.
writing screenplays as well?
I'm not writing
Oh,
screenplays.
okay.
No. I tried it in school, so we had a screenwriting class and that was it was really hard for me. Like
Right, right.
writing lines is so difficult.
Yes.
Um, I grew up just kind of writing since I can remember, since I was like 7. I have like stacks of journals.
Right.
Um, and it was just an outlet for me to express my vulnerability. And so I always just wrote long form or I would write like poetry. So that's just kind of what I'm used to. And I grew up reading a lot too. So
Nice.
screenwriting is definitely like alien to me almost. But it was really difficult, especially just making the lines sound normal and um, not weird. Um, and that's actually something that really stood out to me from your film
Right.
was I thought that it was like the best like screenwriting in terms of like dialogue. It
Thank
was
you.
so natural.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. No, that means a lot because I should mention this as I always do, Tarantino being my hero. There's a reason for that is because a lot of people will say his dialogue is swift, cool, like slick, but also very believable. And that's something that I always try to emulate in my screenplays. That kind of artistry, that craftsmanship that he masterfully delivers. That's something that I, hope to, I aspire to have, right? Like, see my films like 10 years, 20 years from now, Daniel Calderon, 94 Productions, you'll always associate something of that attribute, right? Like, wow, his dialogue, it's so rich and like it's believable. And that's why I love his film. So that's honestly means a lot. And I really appreciate that. And I can understand how challenging screenwriting is. I've been writing since I was about 17, 18 years old. I wrote my first feature-length
Wow.
screenplay. Yeah, thank you. It's one of many like
That's
screenplays.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of many screenplays that I've developed over the course of my 20s. So I've written about 4 or 5 feature-length, and they're like passion projects. So those are like lock and key, I call it, because they're when I'm doing all these projects to build my portfolio, build my craftsmanship and all the connections. So that way
Yeah, of
when
course.
I have a producer that's like, yo, I like this. Let's
Yeah.
I like your style. I like, you know, like you said, I like your dialogue. I like how you write. I say, well, instead of telling me to go away for 6 months and write something, here, let's do it right now. Here's a script, right? So
That's amazing.
yeah, thank you. It's what my point being is that it really comes down to just repetition, repetition, and just commitment. But also, if it motivates you, right? Like you could be a writer, but maybe screenplays is not what captivates you. It's not something that inspires you to write.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is like not to say like you need to, that's your next move as an actress. Now you got to start writing scripts and become a director. It's like, no, what if you just enjoy poetry? I think that's really beautiful. I think it's also beautiful too. Something Iman did on set. I don't know if she wrote poetry, but it's a way to access your character. Would you say you integrate the two, or is it completely separate?
Yeah, I like to journal as my character so that
Right.
I
That's what
feel
she was
more
saying.
connected to them. Yeah, so
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, I'll just go home and like write like what they're thinking or what they're feeling,
Nice.
or kind of just what they're going through. Yeah, it just
Nice.
helps it be more real in my head, um and yeah, just to build off whatever was going on even on set that day, like, you know.
Of
So
course.
yeah.
No, for sure, right? Like it helps you ask those questions that you maybe not haven't thought of, right? Like that's what I do as a writer. I'll ask questions
Yeah.
like, why is she wearing a hat in this scene? Or like, why is he picking up that ball? And then you just by
Yeah.
asking those questions, you start elaborating and your mind goes wild and says, oh, maybe it's because, you know, he was suffering from a trauma, but you know, maybe it reminds him of his brother who lost, you know. I don't know. Just like it takes you away, right? But that's the important thing is always be curious, always be asking questions. That's where creativity stems from, and be
Yeah.
willing to take the risk because we don't know if it's gonna stick, right? If it's gonna do successful.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, it was really nice to see like the richness that Iman brought to the character. You can definitely
Yes,
see that she did a lot of work with that. So
yes.
whatever she was doing, the journaling, it really worked for her.
Yeah, no, for sure. She was the highlight for sure. She was one of the things that stood out. A lot of people told me, because I sent it around like all different cities, locations, and things like that. And a lot of people from the industry were telling me like, yeah, well, she's a very strong actress and she delivered beautifully. And that's what it is, right? Like there's certain roles that just you know, you fit. Because I've seen like other characters portray things, and I'm the kind of guy where I watch a movie, and if I see an actor portray this character and he does it effectively, I can't see them do it in another role. You know what I mean? Like I always see
Yeah.
them as that character. I know actors hate that, right? Because that's what they
Yeah.
call pigeonhole, but or typecast, I should say. But
Yeah.
when you hit it hard, and like that's what I'm saying about Iman. Like when she hits that character, like when I see Iman, like I think of that character sometimes. Like she really like sold it. You know what I mean? And good for her. So shout out to you, Iman.
Yeah.
So conversing with you in our short time together at the film festival, I came to understand that you were recently accepted to the Alliance of Canadian Cinema,
Mhm.
Television and Radio Artists, or better known as ACTRA. For those who are not familiar with the organization, it is a national union in Canada that operates and protects artists and performers in the media and entertainment industry. So, why did you decide to become involved with this union?
Well, all throughout school, like they loved ACTRA. Like all our professors were part of ACTRA, and they were people that I really looked up to. So I knew that I wanted to be ACTRA eventually.
Right.
But we got a credit in school when we graduated to become ACTRA. And I chose not to take it because I just wanted to really build more of a portfolio and more experience. So I did more non-union work, and um, and so it kind of just came to a point where I was like, okay, I'm like ready to move on, to do more union work. And there's a lot of benefits to being an ACTRA, one of them being that you are protected on set in terms of like having fair working conditions and having a minimum adequate pay.
Right.
But in the long run, like if you're really thinking about it as a career, it also helps you with like receiving health insurance in the future and retirement benefits. So that's huge if you really are, if this is going to be your livelihood full time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also the preference of engagement over non-member performers. So so yeah, they know that people who are in ACTRA are usually people who have experience already and
For sure.
take it very seriously.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think it's just always great to work with ACTRA.
No, for sure. It basically allows you to be a full-time actor or actress, I should say, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like you treat it like a career. Because if you don't have that union membership, that protection, essentially it's you just getting all these gigs yourself, and
Yeah.
it's not working
And I think
smart.
that's important too. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
important when you get started. At least for me, it was because it really helped me to just like throw myself out there like
right.
on my own. And that's like the scariest thing, I think, when you don't have like all these people around
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
like,
No, for
so
sure.
it was really just me like networking and like doing passion projects with other people. And I enjoyed that so much. Honestly, it was like I was a little bit sad that I wouldn't be able to be a part of those passion projects anymore, unless they were ACTRA, which is very much possible. I actually worked on one this past summer that was a
Nice.
passion project, and it was um, fully like they set up a GoFundMe link, so it was fully funded by like
The
audience
public.
members and like the
Yeah,
public,
yeah, yeah.
and everybody that came together, we were all friends. So we didn't even care really about like getting paid. We just wanted to like bring the
Oh,
vision
that's
forward.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, but even then they were able to make it into an actual production and get everyone paid, and it was just the best experience that I had on set.
That's awesome. I'm really relieved to hear that, right? Because as artists,
Yeah.
that's something that I was telling my family, like, and friends, is I've come to a point as I approach my 30s where I'm trying to make a living while pursuing this passion because I know it's only going to get more intensified. And
Yeah.
people, I'm going to naturally want to elevate my career and evolve it because I'm already in that situation where people are telling me, like, okay, you've done these short films, they got into festivals, you got recognition. Now you got to start making features. The problem is like, I'm also trying to like make money and make something for myself while I do it. And I think that's been my struggle my whole um the whole time I've been pursuing this venture is trying to find that balance, you know? So I'm just happy, like I know what that feeling's like. It's you're doing it for a passion project and then to know that you're getting paid for it, it's that relief, right? Because not a lot of people get paid to do what they love, you know, so it was like a bonus for you.
Yeah,
That's great.
exactly.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And how has the membership since joining the union benefited your career as an actress? Like, are you noticing like more frequent auditions or landing more auditions because of it?
So I've very recently joined ACTRA.
Okay.
The process itself, like to do the training and like the paperwork,
Oh, okay, okay.
it took quite a while for me.
Right.
So I'm still actually training. I'm still in like the transitional phase.
Got it. Got it.
So I haven't really had much experience with auditioning being ACTRA just yet, but when I do, I will let you know.
You'll be back on the podcast.
I'll be right back on the podcast.
The whole episode just being about the transition process to
Yeah,
the
just
actor.
edit me in.
Exactly, right? Yeah. But perfect. Okay, well, yeah, yeah. Like I was explaining, I knew you were like kind of freshly joining. I just wasn't sure the process, what it was like, and I knew it's very intricate. Like it requires certain things to be done. But that's great as long as you're in, and now you're doing it. How's the training like? Is it something that you have to commit full time, or do you also work on the side? Like, is this something you're full in?
Yeah, so I also have I also work on the side. I work as a
Okay.
personal assistant,
Okay. Nice.
which actually also allows me to be creative. So I do a lot of social media managing,
Nice.
and like content creation.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, it's not something that I'm doing full time just yet, but I would love to in the future.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's like I said, it's every artist's dream.
Yeah,
And that's what it is, right? It's just a matter of picking up that momentum, and you're in the right place. Actually, will grant you that depending on once it once you're finished that transition process, right? That's
yeah.
awesome. Do you recommend other actors to join this union if they are seeking a successful career in the performing arts, or is it not needed?
Um, You know, I think the business is changing a lot. These days, I'm seeing a lot of really good non-union productions as well that
Right,
pay really well.
right,
But they just aren't going through ACTRA.
yeah,
So a lot is changing, but I think just based off of like past successful actors in Toronto, like for example, my professors that I looked up to,
right,
and continue to look up to, they from their experience, like I'm just kind of following in their footsteps. You know what they say, like if you want something, like look at people that you admire around you and like try to kind of emulate that, or see what they did and see how you could do it better.
right.
So in my experience, yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, it worked out for you. I bring that up only because for the actor, that is, what if I've come across them where they want to do these productions that are not actor supported. So for example, a production like mine, right? I don't go through ACTRA,
Yeah.
and they really want to do it because of the script and like what they can do. Like that's the stipulation, unfortunately. I've heard from ACTRA as you can only do it if it's supported by the union.
Yeah, you
Is that
can't
correct?
work
Yeah,
on non-union productions at all.
right.
Otherwise, you get like kicked out of ACTRA, and
That's
I don't
crazy.
think you can get back in. So yeah, it's really like,
Got to risk it
but
all.
yeah, you can always you can always leave ACTRA if you want to. Like, so if I don't know, a really
I'm gonna slap a
good
script
gig
on your
comes up.
desk, and Andrea's gonna say I left ACTRA. I'm not kidding. Like, not maybe me, but there are like think about this, right? From an artist perspective. What if you do come across that script? It's like,
Yeah,
and you're perfect for the role, right? For me, people have told me like maybe try and get into a union as well as a director. And again, those are stipulations, like you can't do your own thing and it has to be very regulated. And for me, it's like what I'm trying to do. Again, I'm trying to emulate the Rebel, the Tarantino. My films, there's a reason why I'm able to do them is because there's no one to tell me I can't do it. You know what I mean? A certain way. And how else can you
yeah,
create your own unique expression? So that's what I mean by like, obviously it's necessary. Like what you're describing is great, of course. I'm just trying to think of it more from like a true artist, not to denounce anyone that's an artist here, but you know what I mean? Like how far can you go with it if you're always being
yeah,
regulated? Does that make sense?
yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of regulations with ACTRA. I myself saw on the passion project that we worked on,
Right.
which is called Road Trippin', by the way, and it's coming out this summer.
Nice. Can't wait to see it.
Um,
Please send a link.
yeah, I'll send it to you. Very, very exciting.
Yeah.
But even with them, like I saw a lot of the like strict regulations that ACTRA had. Like there were so many guidelines and
Yeah, you can't work
just
past a certain
a
hour. Yeah.
lot of paperwork and
Right.
just like a lot of going back and forth. And yeah, it definitely made the process more tedious, but I think it was worth it, just in terms of like protecting actors.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like this is what I mean by I'm at that juxtaposition where of course I want to be the artist and like yeah, a rebel and like I do my own thing and no one's telling me what to do and I have the team of other rebels and we're just like making it happen, right? But then there's a part
Hmm.
of me where I've been on situations, I've been in productions where that protection I needed, you know what I mean? Like it would have helped me. It would have saved me a lot of money or it would have saved me a lot of stress. Does that make sense? It's
Hmm.
like the union is sometimes there for a reason. So because as we know with the artist industry, it's unregulated, it's all over the place. There's no structure to it. There's no formula, I
Yeah,
should say. But these unions are put into place on purpose to protect Andrea if I hire you kind of thing, right? It's like there's this like understanding and agreement like you're not going to go over the time. Now we have maybe a different relationship because you understand like who I am as a creative or like through Iman, let's just say that, right? But I'm saying
yeah,
if I just hired you, right, through an email or like through a
yeah,
DM, how much do you how do you know you're not being taken advantage of creatively like with your time and your effort? You know, how do
yeah,
you know like I'm not you show up because I've we've all been, I don't know if you've experienced it, we've been in those situations where you're standing around doing nothing and then demanding like more time than what was required, right?
yeah. It's definitely a risk that you take when you do non-union productions.
Mm.
Um, but sometimes I've honestly never really had like that bad of an experience with non-union productions, um, thankfully. So I don't know, maybe there are people who have out there, but I've had good experiences with non-union work. So
Yeah,
yeah.
at the end of the day, if you're enjoying what you do, right, it shouldn't be stressful. I'm just like I've heard stories and like how like people have told me like, oh, like, on Lady of the Night, like you're such a calm, like relaxed director and you have like a great leadership like quality to yourself. Like, and I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, I've been on sets where the director's like snapping and like freaking out on people. And I'm just thinking
Mhm.
in those situations, like, can you do that if you have a union involved? You know what I mean? Like, can you
Mhm.
go past those ethics, right? Um, so again, everyone's experiences are different, and I'm really happy that you didn't have any like crazy certain experiences. I was fortunate as well. Like I, when I used to shadow directors, like I've witnessed other people like dealing with kind of situations. And I myself had moments like that, but because most of my productions, like I was in control, I always made sure that it was like a safe place. Um, because it's so important. Creativity is such a fine balance. People don't get it. Like if you start pissing everybody off and everybody feels uneasy, it's going to show in the performance and how everything is set up.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely such a group like ensemble like effort. So
Yeah.
um
Like I
yeah, and
don't believe in
everyone plays
ruling
a
with like
part. So
yeah, like I don't believe in like ruling with an iron fist. Like I believe in speaking when you need to, right? Like it telling you like, hey, listen, you need to be punctual if you want to if you want to continue working on this project because I'm not going to tolerate that. But also not being like freaking out on set and like making you feel uncomfortable to the point where it affects your performance. Because guess what? You lose in the end, not you, me, the
yeah,
director, right? So it's like understanding that balance. But that's great. Like I'm glad you're part of this union. I'm very excited for you because I've heard great
thank
things
you.
about it. The festival I think was sponsored by ACTRA. That was speaking of the Toronto Shorts International Film
Oh,
Festival. So
cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think that was something that I noticed on their website. So yeah, I hear great things about you, and I wish you best of luck for it.
thank you so much. Thank
Yes,
you
of
for
course.
having me.
Yeah. Oh,
Same to you. Good luck with directing, and I can't wait to see your future projects.
yeah. I really appreciate that, Andrea.
And
And
hopefully we get to work together someday.
yeah, we will. We will. I definitely have an array of projects, that are on the list, and yeah, we'll figure something out in the future.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, everybody, for your time, for listening. Thank you again, Andrea, for coming onto the podcast, and we'll talk soon.